In graph 19.1, we showed how we can illustrate the economic incidence of a per unit tax. A per unit subsidy is just like a per unit tax. In fact, it's a negative per unit tax. We'll show here how to illustrate the economic incidence of a per unit subsidy in a way similar to how we arrived at illustrating the economic incidence of a tax in panel C of graph 19.1. We begin with the original before subsidy equilibrium price and quantity. If the subsidy is introduced on the producer side, then marginal costs fall and therefore the supply curve will shift to the right, increasing the equilibrium quantity. If it's introduced on the consumer side, then the demand curve will shift up, therefore again increasing the equilibrium quantity. In either case, there will be a higher price that producers will now receive as a result of the subsidy. The new equilibrium quantity under the subsidy, XS, will then lie above X star. And the price paid by consumers will be read off the demand curve as PD. Just as the difference between the producer and the consumer price under the tax was equal to the per unit tax, so now the difference between the producer and the consumer price will be the per unit subsidy. The difference is that now producers receive the higher price and consumers pay the lower price, whereas in the tax case, consumers paid the higher price and producers received the lower price. The new equilibrium quantity, XS, can be determined by inserting a subsidy wedge equal to the size of the per unit subsidy to the right of the initial equilibrium point. This is exactly analogous to inserting the tax wedge to the left of the equilibrium point, as we did in graph 19.1. Regardless of whether the subsidy is statutorily given to producers or consumers, the economic incidence of the subsidy is therefore the same, with producers getting a higher price than they would in the absence of the subsidy, and consumers paying a lower price.